Hello and welcome to Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. My name is Kelly and I'm a former wedding planner and blogger, and I'm obsessed with weddings. If you're planning a wedding in Ireland, you're in the right place. You're going to learn the tried and tested methods to planning your dream wedding without the added stress. Think of this as your one-stop shop for everything to do with planning your wedding in Ireland, with me, your new wedding planning bestie, and a cup of tea. This is Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. Well, hello and welcome to a new episode of Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. I'm Kelly, I'm your host. I have my cup of tea ready and I hope that you do too. But last week we started a 3-part series all about wedding websites, which means that today we're into part 2. And so what I said in the previous episode is that I'm not talking about where to go to make your wedding website and what platforms to use, but instead I'm helping you with the content that needs to go on the wedding website and ultimately how you can communicate really important information to your guests and how you can prevent feeling overwhelmed by guests asking you lots of questions. So that is where this week's episode comes in specifically, because today we're talking all about wedding website FAQs. If you've never heard of the phrase FAQ stands for frequently asked questions. So this part of your website is a great space for you to ask and then answer questions that you know your guests will have, or even questions that you've already been asked by people. It's not a passive-aggressive solution where someone asks a question and then you send them the link to the FAQ page, but instead it's more like when your guests are exploring your wedding website, they'll find that section, they'll have a look to check if their question is there, and then the final question on your list is going to help you if the question that they have is not listed. So today I'm going to walk you through some questions you can include in this section of your wedding website, as well as how you can answer the question to give all the key information that your guests will need. So let's get stuck in. Very first question, where is the wedding taking place? You might think it's super obvious because it's on the wedding invitation, but I recommend including some more details in this part of your website. You may have a separate part of the website with a map and, key information that guests will need to travel to your location. But in this part of your website, you can say, what the address is, and then you can give a link to the part of the website with all the details. If your ceremony and your reception are in 2 different locations, you should include the details for both, unless you have guests who are only going to one part of the wedding. Then you've got to find a creative way to give the correct information to the correct group of people. And depending on the platform that you use, there may be a way that guests who are attending every part of your wedding will see everything, and guests who are attending the ceremony only or the reception only or the after party only will only see the bits that relate to them. So that will be dependent on the platform that you use. Next question, what time is the ceremony and what time is the reception? Again, this information will have been communicated on your invitation, and as we listed last week, it'll probably be very close to the top of your wedding website. So it's a very obvious piece of information, but what you want to do here is you want to restate what you've put on the invitation, and in addition, if you would like guests to arrive early, this is where you can put that information. Next question, is there a dress code? This is where you can give a little bit more information. And here's an example of something that you could say if this was the kind of wedding you were having. Something like this. The dress code for our wedding is beach casual. Wear whatever you're comfortable in, a button-up shirt, a long flowy dress, or whatever brings you joy. We're tying the knot on the beach, so we recommend avoiding high heels. So as you can tell, you've listed what the dress code is. You've given a couple of options of people's outfit choices without being too prescriptive, but then you've given the very key piece of information, which is don't wear heels. So my recommendation is try and keep your wedding dress code as stress-free as possible. Don't be too prescriptive, but you can offer some suggestions to get your guests thinking. And some hints and guidelines are always super helpful to get guests, just picturing different things that they could wear. Next question, what weather should we expect? Now, of course, no one's expecting you to be a weatherman, so you could say something like this. Of course, we can't guarantee anything, but we do get plenty of rain in Ireland. Keep an eye on the weather forecast here, and then that's where you can share a link to a trusted weather forecast website in the weeks leading up to the wedding, and please have an umbrella ready. My expert tip is consider weather that's not just rain. So you might want to warn guests if it's going to be really hot or if you're going to have an outdoor wedding, which does bring me to the next question. And you want to give them hints about things like bringing sunscreen or wearing a light jacket or, anything that the weather could play an impact in. You just want to give whatever information you can. This is mostly for people who are coming from outside of Ireland and they just expect the weather will be one type of way, and you may have more information than they do. Next question, is the wedding indoors or outdoors? So it is actually important for guests to know if they're going to be sitting outside, especially if it's going to be really hot. It helps get guests to plan accordingly with things like a hat or an extra coat, depending on the season. So that piece of information is actually very helpful, and it's not ideal if a guest is surprised by it on the day. So give as much information here as you can. Next question, what should I expect after the ceremony? How about saying something like this? Right after the ceremony, the immediate family will take photos on the beach for an hour. Guests can drive over to the reception venue, which is about a 10-minute drive away, where snacks and drinks will be served. We'll eat dinner at 8 p.m. with dancing to follow. It just gives guests a little bit of an understanding of when they're going to eat, how much time there'll be between the ceremony and the reception, so they know how much of a rush they need to be in to get to the next part of the wedding. It helps to paint a picture of what the day will be like, and there are many guests who actually feel quite anxious without that information. And so to paint that picture for those guests will be really helpful to allowing guests to feel really calm and relaxed before your big day. Will there be transport provided? Why don't you say something like this? We aren't providing formal transport for the wedding, but our ceremony and reception are taking place in the same area. There's ample parking for those who are comfortable driving, and local taxis are a great option for those who aren't. Now, this is where you can provide links to taxi services. You can, again, suggest maps and location information. Tell guests exactly where they can park, how much the parking will be, if it's limited parking. And you've basically given them all the information that they need, and they can then take that information and choose to carpool with a friend or go in on a taxi. It definitely helps guests to know that you're in an area where taxis are an option and where to phone or book their taxi ahead of time if that is what's needed. How do I RSVP? And you can say something like, we hope you'll be able to join us for our big day. Please click here to let us know you're coming. And then you can have a link or a button to the part of the website where they can RSVP, or if it's an email address or phone number, you can put that information. This is an interesting question. Can I bring my children? Part of me wants to say, well, were their names on the invitation? Of course you can't. But this is a wedding and you want to be polite. So you could say something like this. Since we both have huge extended families, we have chosen to limit our guest list to those who are 14 and over, and we hope you understand. Let us know if there's anything we can do to help. And of course, if you are having children and there's going to be childcare provided, or if you're having, children of the immediate family only, whatever it is you've decided to do, this is where you can communicate it. But just remember that it can be a touchy subject. And if you're not having children and there's a chance that some of your guests won't be able to come, there are some creative ways that you can communicate this information to them. And I will drop a link in the blog post for this episode, which will be found on weddingsonline.ie. You can have a look through the notes, and I'll have a link there to a separate post we've done previously all about how you can creatively word things that have to do with no children at the wedding in a way that's polite and straightforward. Okay, I've got 2 more questions for you. First up, I can't attend the wedding in person. Will there be a virtual wedding celebration? And then that's where you can give all the details. So you want to give the link to where they can live stream your wedding, anything like the password, the timing, anything that would be helpful for guests to know, such as if they need to log on ahead of time, if they need to have an account with some platform like Zoom or Google Meet or whatever it is you're using. If they need to have any of that set up ahead of time, you should communicate it here so that they don't find out at the start of your wedding. But any information to do with the live stream should be communicated in this part of your website. And the final question, this is a kind of cover-all, fail-safe. I have a question that I just can't find the answer to. What's the best way to contact you? So this is where you can let guests know that if they do have any other questions, they know how to reach you or the wedding planner. It could be a phone call, text, email, contact form on the website, whatever is easiest for you. But I also recommend having a point of contact for the wedding day. It can be your wedding planner, it can be the maid of honor, best man, one of the parents, anybody that's not you or your partner. So somebody has a question on the day, they know not to contact you and you've spelled it out for them so they know who to get in touch with. So that is it for part 2 of our wedding website series. Next week, we're talking all about writing the About Us part of your wedding website. It's a very important part of the website because it tells the story of who you are, how you fell in love, and it gets your guests really excited for the day. And if you've never had to write that before, you probably have no idea where to start. So I'm going to walk you through it with some expert tips. And by the end of it, you'll know exactly what to put in your wedding website and how to write that specific and very creative part of it. So don't miss that episode coming out next week. Thank you for listening today. The Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online podcast is produced by me, Kelly, and mixed, mastered, and edited by Glenn Hartman. For more wedding planning tips, advice, checklists, and more, visit weddingsonline.ie.